Don't touch me right now. She didn't scream it. She didn't whisper it. She said it like it was a line she'd rehearsed in the mirror. I stood there with one hand midair, hovering over the curve of her shoulder. And in that moment, I realized I hadn't touched my wife in 47 days. Not accidentally brushing fingers. Not a knee against hers on the couch. Not even a sleepy, half-aware hug in the dark. Nothing. 47 days. She was wearing the navy hoodie I bought her last Christmas. Her hair was wet. There was a smell of someone else's cologne on her. It wasn't mine. I took a step back. Not because I was angry, but because I suddenly felt like I was trespassing. Like I had walked into a stranger's house by mistake. The walls were still the same beige. The kitchen tile still chipped. The living room still had the same oil stain from when I spilled pad thai 3 years ago. But the woman in front of me? No. This wasn't the same person who once fell asleep in my lap watching nature documentaries. Injuries. She turned around like nothing had happened and opened the fridge. We're out of oat milk, she said. Can you grab some tomorrow? I didn't respond because that's when I noticed her phone screen light up on the counter. A message preview. Still thinking about this morning. You're unreal. No name. Just a heart emoji. She didn't see me read it. She didn't even notice I was still standing there. I walked out the front door without saying anything. Just walked. Past the mailbox I painted for her birthday. Past the car she told me not to park too close to the hedge. I walked until my legs burned and my throat tightened. That night I slept in the guest room. She didn't ask why. The next morning, she posted a photo of her coffee on Instagram with the caption "New Beginnings." I hadn't left yet, but she had. That was the day I stopped waiting for her to come back and started preparing her ending. Because if she thought, "Don't touch me right now," was a boundary, she had no idea what I was capable of once I stopped begging to be loved. She didn't knock on the guest room door that night. I waited, like a fool. I listened for footsteps, for the soft creak of the hallway floor, for any sign that she cared I wasn't beside her. Nothing. Just silence, heavy and humiliating. At 2:14 a.m., I opened my phone and scrolled up through our old texts before everything turned robotic. Her "I love yous" back then were unprovoked. Now they didn't come at all. I still remember one message from 2 years ago that said, "You make the world less sharp." That version of her had disappeared, and whoever remained was sharper than ever. Razor sharp. Cold and surgical. Like everything was being dissected without anesthesia, and I was the experiment. The next morning, she hummed in the kitchen. Actually hummed. A pop song. Cheerful. I sat on the edge of the guest bed, listening, wondering if I'd dreamt the night before. But then I heard her phone vibrate. Right. Not once. Not twice. 5 times. I counted. She was laughing on the call by the 3rd ring. Quietly. But laughing. Not like when we used to laugh over dumb rom-coms or our failed attempt at salsa dancing. This laugh was different. Careless. Like someone had reached in and twisted something sacred. And that's when it stopped being about jealousy. It became about truth. I didn't confront her. That would have made me just another obstacle in her day. Instead, I started documenting. I saved screenshots, took photos of the screen when her phone lit up, synced her calendar to my tablet when she wasn't looking. I didn't know what I was looking for yet, but I knew I needed proof, not for the courts, not even for friends. I needed myself to believe that I wasn't crazy. The next Friday, she told me she was going to an art class downtown, said it was a 3-hour workshop on watercolor technique. I offered to drive her. She smiled, too sweetly, and said, "No need, babe." Babe. You'd be bored out of your mind. Babe. A word she hadn't used on me in months. It landed like acid. So I followed her. I waited 30 minutes after she left, then took my car. Kept a safe distance. Tracked her down through traffic until she pulled into the side parking lot of a boutique hotel called the White Fern. I watched from across the street as she got out. She wasn't carrying paint supplies. She was carrying lingerie. I recognized the little red bag from the boutique she used to avoid because it was too flat. A man in a charcoal blazer opened the door for her before she could even knock. He didn't look like someone she'd met last week. He looked like someone who already knew the color of her bedroom walls. I didn't go in. I didn't make a scene. I just took the photo. One single photo of them together at the door, her smiling like she hadn't smiled at me in 2 years. That image would stay burned in my skull, but also saved to 3 cloud accounts, just in case I ever doubted my memory or needed to prove I wasn't the insane one. When she came home later that night, her hair still damp, she looked at me sitting at the dining table like I was a misplaced decoration. "How was your class?" I asked without raising my voice. "It was expressive," she said, putting her phone down carefully. "We painted roses." I looked her straight in the eyes and replied, "Funny. You came back without your paintbrush." For a second, I thought her expression cracked. Just a second. Then she smirked, turned away, and said, "You're reading into things again." I didn't respond. I simply stood up, grabbed my jacket, and walked out. Not forever. Just long enough to make her think maybe I was done trying. The next day, she cried. Not in front of me, of course not. But I saw it in the security footage I forgot to tell her I had installed outside the house 2 weeks earlier. She was standing on the porch, staring out at the driveway, wiping her eyes like someone who realized a foundation was crumbling. She had no idea that it wasn't over yet. Not by a long shot. Because if I couldn't have the truth, I was going to force her to confront it herself. Piece by piece. And when I was done, she wouldn't be humming anymore. I didn't confront her after the hotel photo. That would have been the instinctive thing to do, slap the truth down on the table and ask for an explanation. But I wasn't interested in explanations anymore. I wanted her to reveal it herself. I wanted to watch her unravel. Not out of cruelty, but because after years of shrinking myself to fit her expectations, I needed to watch what happened when I stopped holding everything together. So I began a game. Silent, precise, controlled, and she didn't even know she was playing. The first thing I did was cancel the automatic grocery orders. It was small, almost invisible. But she noticed it by day 3 when she opened the fridge and asked, "Did you forget the Instacart order?" I shrugged. Probably. That night, she ate dry cereal and said nothing. One crack. Then I stopped replying to her texts. Nothing dramatic. Just delayed. Hours, sometimes all day. I was always polite, never cold. "Sorry, had a busy afternoon. Didn't see your message until now." She started asking, "Is everything okay?" And I would respond with something vague like, "Just tired." But the real shift happened when I stopped asking her anything. No, "How was your day?" No, "What do you want for dinner?" Dinner. I became a mirror, reflecting whatever energy she gave me. And when she realized the spotlight was no longer on her, she started flickering, desperate for a reaction. She made an effort again, wore lipstick to the dinner table, watched documentaries with me on the couch, even though she scrolled through her phone the whole time. She even suggested we take a weekend road trip to reconnect, she said. That's when I knew she could feel it, that distant vacuum of me stepping out of the role of the emotionally available husband, the one who forgave, who asked, who tried. The version of me that buffered her guilt? He was gone. And without him, she didn't know who she was. But the best move was the one she never saw coming. I printed the photo of her and the man at the hotel, not digitally. I had it developed, printed in matte, and slid it inside a blank birthday card. No message. Just the image. Then I waited for the perfect moment. It came a week later when she told me she was going to a co-worker's baby shower. She dressed up, wore perfume she hadn't touched in months, and left in a rush. I placed the envelope in her makeup drawer. Second layer down. Not hidden, just enough out of sight that she'd find it when she was alone, getting ready or reapplying her mascara. Somewhere private. I didn't want the confrontation. I wanted the wait. That same day, I packed a bag and drove 3 hours north to my cousin Warren's cabin. I didn't leave a note, didn't turn off my phone, I simply became unreachable. I wanted her to sit with that image of herself walking into a hotel room with a man whose name I never needed to know. I turned my phone off once I arrived at the cabin. I brought no laptop, no distractions, just logs to burn and silence to think. For 2 full days, I existed off the grid, letting her spiral. I imagined her tearing through the house, checking voicemail, maybe even calling my coworkers. I imagined the moment she found the envelope, opened it, and saw herself in it. Not a selfie, not something she could filter or explain away, but raw proof. When I turned my phone back on, there were 12 missed calls. 6 messages. The first 4 were mild. Hey, just checking in. Where are you? Then came, did you go through my things? And finally, a simple one. Please call me. I didn't respond. I wasn't ready yet. The next day, I came home like nothing happened. She was standing in the doorway, barefoot, looking like she hadn't slept. Her eyes were rimmed in red, but she didn't cry in front of me. She never did. Why would you leave that photo like that? She asked, her voice thin. I walked past her, hung up my coat, and said, you always told me you hated surprises. I figured this one wouldn't disappoint. She followed me into the kitchen, asking questions I didn't answer. How long have you known? Did you follow me? Are you going to tell anyone? Her voice was quick, strained, afraid not of me, but of what might come next. I didn't yell, didn't accuse. I simply replied, there's nothing to tell. You already lived it. And then I poured myself a glass of water and left her standing there. Because the unraveling had only just begun. That night, she tried to reclaim control. It was subtle at first. She cooked dinner, something she rarely did anymore, and set the table for 2 like nothing had happened. Chicken marsala, candlelight, cloth napkins. I watched her light the wick with trembling hands and sit down opposite me like this was some twisted date night. Like the ghost of our old life could be summoned if she just performed the routine well enough. I didn't speak. I ate. Slowly. Deliberately. Every bite was mechanical, like I was chewing through drywall. Halfway through, she said. So you've known for a while. It wasn't a question, but an admission. She was testing me, waiting to see how deep the knife had gone. I set my fork down and looked at her. Since the first time you told me you were tired, but your hair was freshly washed and your phone was dead silent. She flinched. Not dramatically, but just enough for me to notice the crack in her mask. She nodded slowly, pushed food around her plate, and then whispered something that I honestly think she hadn't planned to say out loud. I thought I could control it. That it would stay small. She couldn't even call it what it was. Not a mistake. Not infidelity. Just it. As if naming it would make it real. But I didn't respond. I had no interest in helping her confess. I wasn't her priest. Later that evening, I found her sitting on the floor in our walk-in closet, knees pulled to her chest, staring at the shoebox where she kept old letters from me. Letters I hadn't seen in years. She didn't touch them. Just stared at the box like it was holding some ancient version of herself she'd lost the password to. I never wanted this to become war, she said suddenly. I didn't think it would hurt you this way. That was the moment. The moment I realized she had convinced herself that what she did wasn't violent. That stepping out of the marriage, lying, sleeping with someone else, and pretending to still love me, It was all forgivable because she hadn't thrown plates or screamed. She believed because she had been quiet about it. It didn't count as cruelty. So I asked her, when did you stop believing I mattered? Her head snapped up. That's not fair. No, I said, folding my arms. You think I didn't notice when you stopped asking me how I slept? When you left the room every time I tried to talk about anything that wasn't your life. I didn't stop caring. Then why do you give yourself to someone else like I was a roommate with a mortgage? Silence. And then, finally, she whispered, because I wanted to feel wanted. It didn't surprise me. What surprised me was how little it hurt to hear. The next morning, I found her car keys still on the hallway shelf. She hadn't left. She hadn't gone to work. Instead, she sat on the back porch in the same hoodie from the night before, drinking coffee and staring at the yard like it had answers. She didn't notice I was watching her through the blinds. That's when I made the second move. I contacted the leasing office for the apartment complex across town. 1-bedroom unit, corner floor, no shared walls. I didn't even ask to see the place. I wired the deposit and signed the agreement under my middle name. Quietly, without ceremony. That same afternoon, I packed a single suitcase, just the essentials. I left the rest. The shirts she never folded. The shoes she used to tease me for keeping too long. I left the wedding photo on the hallway wall, untouched. I didn't even flip it down. It didn't deserve the drama. I didn't leave a note this time, either. Just one thing, a small envelope placed on her pillow. Inside was a printed screenshot of a bank transfer, half of the joint savings, down to the cent, with a message beneath it. This is what fairness looks like. I walked out of the house without making a sound. No slamming doors. No dramatic music. Just the clicking of the handle and the soft hush of goodbye. And I swear to you, as I pulled out of the driveway, I didn't feel like I was leaving home. I felt like I was finally stepping into it. When I left the house, I didn't expect silence. I thought there would be texts, calls, maybe even a voicemail with carefully chosen words like regret or mistake. But the first 48 hours were nothing. No contact, no notification, just the low hum of solitude in that small corner apartment with beige walls, a leaky faucet, and no memories baked into it yet. And that was the strange part. Peace didn't feel like relief at first. It felt like shock. Like after a car crash where you're walking around, untouched, but your brain hasn't caught up with your body. I kept expecting her to come through the door, still wearing that oversized hoodie, still smelling like whatever cologne wasn't mine. But she never did. And I realized something. Darla, yeah, I'll use her name now, wasn't looking for me. She was waiting to see if I would come crawling back. She'd mistaken silence for hesitation. What she didn't know was that I wasn't deciding, I was watching. 2 days after I left, she finally reached out. Not a message. Not a call. She posted a photo.